A good day and a happy new week to everyone out there. This is the Red Mail Rundown, episode 48. Welcome inside. Pleased to be with you today to talk a little bit of the Calgary Flames hockey. Of course, I am your host, John Eastop, and alongside me, as always, Robert Munich. Robert, how was the weekend?
The weekend was pretty solid, especially if you're a member of Team Tank. If you're a member of Team Tank, my God, your life is good right now.
Yeah,
Like you're skipping up and down the street, you're saying hi to everybody, you're giving out high fives. You're in such a good mood if you're on Team Tank, and if you're on Team Playoff, it is just the complete opposite. It's like that meme where you got like two guys on a bus, and like one guy's looking at like,
yeah,
like an evil side, and the other guy's looking at like this like amazing
yeah.
paradise. And yeah, that's Team Tank and Team Playoffs right there. So now it's been an interesting start to the season for sure.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a second. Just want to thank everyone again for the downloads and the listens as the episodes continue to roll here early in the season. We are 6 games in, Robert. The Flames took care of business in Edmonton. Everything looked good. We saw maybe that scheduled loss in Vancouver the day after. And you think, okay, that's fine. 1-1 after the first 2 games. That's fine. And then it started rolling downhill. They slipped up against St. Louis after playing a pretty good game. We talked about that last week on the podcast. And then it kept going and it kept going. And then Saturday night came and it felt like we hit some rock bottom here, or pretty close to it, as the Flames have now lost 5 in a row. How do you make sense of this, Robert, at all? Even if you can at all, anyways.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how it's happened too. Like you mentioned, they played pretty good against St. Louis. Like I actually thought they played good enough to win that game, but
yeah,
it almost seems like since St. Louis, it's just like the level of play from the Calgary Flames has just gone down a peg and down a peg and down a peg, and then kind of culminated on Saturday night's 6-1 loss there. Like it feels like they're not going in the right direction from a wins and losses perspective. Like the way they played against Utah and then on Vegas on Saturday night, it just feels like the team is getting worse, and it doesn't feel like they're getting better right now. And tonight, now they play the Winnipeg Jets, who won 4 games in a row, won the President's Trophy last year. So they gotta, if they want to win hockey games, like they have to get it together now, because like, I mean, I already think it's probably too late to be thinking about the playoffs, but you know, crazy things have happened. Like, you know, they could go in a bit of a heater, but man, it's just it's the way they're playing the game right now that's a little concerning. Like, you know what, if they went to Vegas the other night and they competed and lost 4-2 just because Vegas is a better team, then that's fine. But on Saturday, it literally looked like some of the guys were just giving up, and that's not something that you're used to seeing from this Calgary Flames team. So yeah, it's definitely a little concerning for sure.
I always say that when I'm watching sports that you can handle losing games because that's sports. The other team gets paid too. They're out there. They have a game plan. Sometimes their game plan's better than yours. That's fine. That happens in sports. It's the way, and you mentioned it right there, Robert. It's the way they've lost these games. They're creating, and then the puck dies with one chance or dies on a stick in the neutral zone. The back check's too slow. They're not creating enough in front of Dustin Wolf to create enough of a barrier between him and the puck. There's just a lot of things that are not going the correct way. So it's not that they're losing these hockey games. It's how they're losing. They were clearly a class behind Utah in that game as well. They were clearly 2 or 3 classes behind Vegas on Saturday. And it's just, you look at it and you're just baffled because this is the same group, apart from 2 or 3 guys here, that last year we were praising their work ethic and how hard they played against these teams, how they would raise their games against those teams they needed to raise their game against. We were praising this exact same group for doing everything that they're not doing this year. And I don't have any answers of why it's going this way. They're clearly not skilled enough. And everyone's ragging on the Ryan Huska system. And we'll talk about Ryan a little bit later in the episode here. But we had the same system last year, and they were grinding out goals. They were finding ways to put it in. Nazem Kadri had a career high in goals last year in the same system. So what's going on with this Flames team right now? It's hard to really pinpoint it down. 7 goals in these 5 games, Robert, in these losses here. They're just not scoring enough. So you mentioned the playoffs there. What does this losing streak mean for the rest of the season for you? Do they still shoot for the playoffs? Do they bottom out? What does it mean for you, Robert, after this 5-game losing streak?
Well, I mean, okay, so if you're the coach or you're the players, obviously your goal is going to be to make the playoffs. And your goal is to go out there and win every game. That's the role of the player. That's the role of the coach. What's really going to be interesting is to see how management approaches it. And that's ultimately what's going to be most important for the long term.
Yeah, well put.
Right? So if you're management and you see this start to the season, you got to be thinking to yourself, like it's already almost over. And I put it out there on Twitter after the game on Saturday. So basically, what needs to happen in order for the Flames to get to 97 points, which should comfortably get you in a playoff spot. I mean, it could take 95 or 96, but you're going to have to play at a 625 win percentage. And to put it into context, only 6 teams in the NHL played at that clip for the entire year. So obviously the 6 best teams in the league. Do you really expect this version of the Calgary Flames to be able to play at a 625 win percentage this season to get into the playoffs? I think it's highly unrealistic to expect this group to do that. So because of that, like the math is already not on their side. And like just imagine this group with the lack of goal scoring, with the lack of depth, and not getting the goaltending that you had expected. How in the hell is that group going to play at a 625 winning percentage? Like, realistically, it's just the playoffs probably aren't going to happen already. This team I don't think is skilled enough or good enough to climb out of this hole that they dug for themselves. And it's one of the reasons why last year I think they were in the mix all years, because they got off to that 5-0-1 start, and it kind of buoyed them and kept them, kind of floated them for months on months. Like from like November to the beginning of March, they were a bad team. Like they were I think they were 20th in the NHL in standings, dead last in goals throughout that time. That was about 50 game sample size. And that's kind of what they are right now. Like they're that team, but they're not being boosted by, a fantastic start to the season and good goaltending. So yeah, if you're the coaches, obviously you're going to go out there and try to win hockey games, but ultimately it's up to Craig Conroy to have the foresight and to have the common sense to not invest in this team even more than he already has.
It's funny to say that about the playoffs this early in the season, because you always hear all the broadcasters out there, you don't make the playoffs in October, you can't lose. You can definitely put yourself behind the 8 ball, and that's exactly what the Flames have done here. That's a big clip to ask any team to play at any level of hockey to make the playoffs, let alone a team that struggles to score goals, struggles to keep goals out of their net. They're allowing over 4 goals a game, Robert, average this year, and they're only scoring a goal and a half a game. You're not winning very many hockey games doing that. And to ask them to play at that level, that clip, to make a playoff push at it, I think and I hope the realization in the front office this year is to realize what is happening here before their eyes. I think last year this team, and I hate to keep going back to last year, but it's the same group as last year. They got a nice heater at the end of last season, and they put themselves in a position to be in the playoff spot, and you give them all the credit in the world. But this group is really, I think, showing you what they are. They're not that group at the end of last year. I don't think they're as bad as this group we're seeing at the beginning of this year either. They're somewhere in the middle. What does that mean for this roster? Well, I don't think you're good enough then to be a playoff team, but then are you bad enough to be a top 10 lottery team? And I think we start asking those questions of, are they actually this bad? Are they actually going to be a top 5 lottery team? Or are we just going to go and regress back to the norm again and be one of those mushy middle type teams again? So this is an opportunity, I think, for the Flames to say, let's be realistic here. We still want to compete. You still want to have a good team. You want to put a product on the ice. You can't mail it in after 6 games of the season. You're not San Jose. You got to make sure that you're finding a nice balance here. And I think the Flames are in a good position here, front office wise, to realize, hey, this could be an opportunity for this team to add another good piece through the draft and let Ryan Huska do what Ryan Huska does. I think that this is a year to evaluate some younger players now. This is a year that you could bring back. You can leave Hanzik up, maybe bring back Ridden in and kind of things like that and help your roster out that way to find ways. But you got to find answers if you want to win hockey games in a hurry some here. I don't know if you listened to 32 Thoughts yet this morning, Robert. But Elliot Friedman mentioned that the Flames aren't in it for a quick fix, that they're looking at the building the new building to be a competitive hockey team in there. So they're not looking for a quick fix here. And if that's the message, I like that message here.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. And I think that's the approach that the front office should be taking here. And so if that's your message or your approach, that's not going to be your message to your players, obviously, but if that's your approach to how you're building this roster, then stick with it and realize, okay, you're 1-5. You have the Jets twice this week. You have a very good Montreal team that works their butt off coming through this week. That's 3 tough games this week that you potentially could be, 2-7 if things are okay. Like, that's still not great, and you're still in that same position you're in right now. And so I think it's an opportunity for the Flames here to really take advantage of the situation that they're at here, because I think playoffs are long gone here.
Yeah, and people might be saying to themselves, like, what are you talking about? We're 6 games into the season. Like, the playoffs are not out of our reach right now. I would totally agree with that if the Flames were a good team. If this was like a really highly skilled team with a bunch of elite talent, I would agree. You can get out of this hole. However, the Calgary Flames are not that team, unfortunately. Right now in terms of their winning cycle, they're in the process of turning things over, and they're not a very good team. They're not a skilled team. And say they lose a couple games to the say they go 2-7 here to start the season. Like, that's a huge hole to climb out of. Like, you're basically going to need Dustin Wolf to stand on his head for the rest of the season. And, with the way that these guys are playing defense in front of him, I just don't know if that's realistic to expect that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, like the one of the shocking things about the start to this season is the defense and is the scoring chances that the Flames are giving up. Like, it seems like on a nightly basis, they're giving up like 3 or 4 chances, like right in the slot, right in front of their goaltender. In Vegas on Saturday was a perfect example of that. Like, Dustin Wolf didn't have a chance on those goals. Like, if we were to go back and look at all the goals that have been scored on Dustin Wolf this year, you could probably make an argument that the majority of them like aren't on him. Mm-hmm. That they're either just like perfect shots, or they're defensive breakdowns in front of him by his teammates, or like they're just crazy tips. Like, it's been kind of baffling to see, because last year, like, I thought they did a good job keeping shots to the outside. I thought they did a good job protecting their slot and protecting the net front, but it's just been the complete opposite this year. Like they're giving up so many chances. And I think it was last week, Kevin Woodley was on 960, and he had said that the Calgary Flames are 32nd in the NHL in terms of amount of slot shots given up. Like, they've given up the most in the National Hockey League this year. So, like, it's just, we talked about it. Like, we were before the season started, we were saying what needs to happen in order for this team to have success. And we were saying Dustin Wolf needs to stand on his head. It hasn't happened yet. I mean, you take a look at his stats. He's got a .854 save percentage and a .430 goals against average. And like I said, it's not all on him, but like, still, you can't have those numbers from Dustin Wolf. Mm-hmm. And then we had said that the middle six needs to score goals. They have not scored goals. They like you take a look at the goal scoring totals here. I mean, Blake Coleman leads the team in goals with 2. Him and Matt Coronado are tied. Connor Zary has 1. Morgan Frost has 1. Where are we here? Sharon Govich, 0. Klapka, 0. Farabee, 0. Kadri, 0. Like, oh man, it's going to be a long year here. But like I said, I just don't know if they're good enough. Like, do you think this team is good enough to get out of this hole? And this hole is only going to continue to get deeper. I mean, you just take a look at the schedule. You got Winnipeg twice. You got Montreal, who's on fire. You got Toronto, who's a very good team, and the Flames seem to never win in Toronto. And then finally it gets easier at the end of the month, but it's been a pretty ugly start, hey?
The Flames never win in Toronto because they forget 34s on the other side half the damn time. This Flames team, I think, are the playoffs out of the question? I don't think they're out of the question entirely, but it's pretty much far gone for them right now. You're not getting the saves from Dustin Wolf, and I'm not going to listen to the size argument that I've gotten on Twitter from people. That's just not it. I'm not going to listen to the fact that he's not a good enough goaltender. That's not it either. Yes, he needs to make the saves, but this guy needs help. The highest plus minus on the defense right now goes to Danail Mirmanoff. That's how bad this Flames team has been, because everyone who knows how much I love Mirmanoff. It's you got Mackenzie Weegar that's leading your team in plus minus, and just take that stat for what it is. But Rasmus Anderson's on the minus side again. Ball has been only okay. You're not getting anything out of Hanley. His stat line is just zeros across the board, like nothing. There's nothing on Hanley's stat line. You're just not getting what you got last year from a lot of these guys, or 2 years ago from some of these guys. So I think when you're not getting the goaltending numbers, your defense is getting caved in. You mentioned the goal scoring. Like you got guys around the top 6 last year with 0 goals. Like 0 goals from Nazem Kadri 6 games in is not. It's not great. It's really not great. He's supposed to be leading your team in points, and he's not getting the job done that way either. So you're not getting the goaltending. You're not getting the defensive effort. You can't score goals. How do you expect to be a playoff team and to dig yourself out of this hole? You play the next 3 games, how you played this past week, those 3 games of the 2 in Vegas and the 1 versus Utah. You play that game this week. This team is gonna be 1-8, and then it's gonna be even a bigger hole, and it's gonna look really, really ugly. Even 2-7 is really, really ugly. So just to suggest that they are going to be a playoff team down the road here, I think is a fool's errand. I think it's gone for them. And it's a shame to be saying that after 6 games. It's a shame to be feeling this way about the team that you've grown up cheering for, that you support, that you love, that you spend your hard-earned money to go see, to be in this situation, because that game against Vegas on Saturday was demoralizing. Absolutely demoralizing. Yes, they were on the road, and you give a little bit of, okay, well, they don't ever win in Vegas type of situation. But that was more than just losing in Vegas. Like, that was demoralizing. The body language on that 6-1 goal was concerning for me. Pat Steinberg talked about it as well on the Flames postgame show. There was no emotion from Kadri, positive or negative, after that goal was scored while he's sitting in the box. You saw Mackenzie Weegar and Joe Hanley watch the Vegas Golden Knights make a pretty nice play to score that goal on Devin Cooley. And you watched the body language on the bench, just was like, they were almost nonchalant about it. Like, where's the emotion from this group now? That's what you have to do, is now we're trying to figure out where is the emotion, the character of this group. Because even if they don't rebound to the playoffs, Robert, let's at least be a team that battles, be at least a team that shows up and plays a good brand of hockey, and be a competitive group. Whether you make the playoffs or not, whatever. But for right now, I think the Flames need to focus on being what they are right now. And they need to find some character, and they need to find some ways to grind out games. Even if they don't win those games, be competitive in those games. And we just didn't see that last week. So big week for the Flames. And I think the playoffs are highly out of reach for the Flames right now.
Hey, but what about the culture, John? What about the culture? This team has the best culture in all of sports.
Did you see that culture on Saturday?
It's an amazing culture. I mean, look what the culture did for them on Saturday night. Like,
what helps the culture?
Look at the battle level. Look at the compete level from this team. Look at this ability just to never give up and always put your head down and work. I mean, that's a culture thing right there. Thank God we have that culture.
It's amazing the culture conversation only comes up when there's wins, right?
Right.
Like how amazing the culture is in that room, how amazing things are. Well, the Flames were flying high at the end of last season because they were winning hockey games. They were in a playoff battle. You want to talk to me about culture, and it is important to have a good room. Absolutely is. Good teams have great rooms. I'm sure that Vegas Golden Knights room is amazing, but they're winning hockey games over there. They're putting points on the board. They're scoring goals. Of course, the vibes are going to be high. This Flames group, they have these veteran leaders, and they talk about these 6 guys, and this is going to come up way more negative than it should be. I don't care about those 6 guys and how veteran leaders they are. Where is the leadership? We're not seeing it. So you can talk to me until you're blue in the face about how they got these 6 leaders in there. This is a veteran group. I don't care because we're not seeing it. The body language of Nazem Kadri, anyone can go back and watch that video. Go watch his face when that goal goes in. There is no emotion one way or the other on it. And that's not what you want to see. You want to see a pissed off Nazem Kadri in the box. You want to see a dejected Nazem Kadri when that goal goes in. And then you want to see Mackenzie Weegar on that ice showing a little something. He had the perfect seat after Hanley allowed his guy to walk to the middle of the ice and score a goal. The perfect seat. And there was no emotion from it. And that for me is concerning. So I'll take the culture talk, absolutely. And I understand the culture talk, but let's see something, man. Like, let's show some emotion from it.
Now, we're kind of talking about like the playoffs, like the idea that the playoffs are kind of out of reach and how we're kind of down about it. But I do want to say the best thing for the long-term future of this franchise is for this to be a disaster of a season.
Yes.
To finish in the bottom 3, preferably to finish 32nd place. That may sound like a terrible attitude to have, but this Calgary Flames team, in order to get where they want to get to, which is to become a sustained playoff contender, a sustained cup contender for a long period of time, they do need to bottom out this year. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, you take a look at the young core that this team has assembled so far, and it's good. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good pieces here, but they're still missing, in my opinion, 1, 2, maybe even 3 really high-end elite players. And you're hoping that Wolf is going to be the guy. You're hoping Parek's going to be the guy. You're hoping, out of they probably have 10 really solid forward prospects. You're hoping that 1 or 2 of them can become really good top 6 players, but you're still missing that elite guy. You're still missing the Gavin McKenna type of player. And you know what? Like, you take a look at this roster. Obviously, if they make the playoffs, there's no way in hell they're going to win a round. No way in hell. So it's like, well, what's the point then? Like, would you rather make the playoffs or push for a playoff spot? And if you make it, you get throttled in the first round, or if you don't make it, you pick 16th overall.
Who you asking?
Would you rather just bottom out and get a top 3 pick?
Who you asking that question to, though? I think that's the key here.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, eh? Like the fan base is so divided. Like, online, it's a pretty vocal group of fans that want to tank, but then there's a lot of people out there that don't want to see this team do that. And like for me, like from my perspective, like covering the team and running social media for Flames Nation, I'm like almost kind of torn. I'm like, I don't even know how to cover this team, because if I take like a more of a positive approach and a game by game approach, people are like, well, we're just going to tank. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, why are you even doing this? And then if I take a team tank approach, then people come at me and will say, you're a loser. You're giving up on the year. Like, you want losses. Like, that's a BS mentality. Like, it's kind of difficult to cover this team right now, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm not team tank. I never have been. Like, that's just not who I am. I don't like promoting losses. I don't like cheering for losses. But what I will say here is the best thing for this roster is to get some elite talent. And how do you get that elite talent? You draft in the top 3 of the draft. You drop them to top 5 of the draft. You find those guys up there. So be who you are as a team. And what you've shown us this year is you're a 1-5 hockey team. You're a team that can't score enough and a team that allows too many goals. And if that's the team you're going to be, you're going to find yourself in the lottery. You're going to find yourself in a position to be part of the McKenna sweepstakes. At the same time, I understand the other side of the conversation. You want to cheer for wins. You want to cheer for this and that. But do you really like squeaking into the playoffs? As fun as 04 was, as fun as 15 was, they were fun. But we're talking 2 years, 2 seasons of we just got in and we had a little bit of fun. Where you're talking about other teams like Vegas, almost every year but one, they've been in the playoffs and they've made deep runs. Colorado consistently makes runs. You look on the other side of the bracket and you got Boston for years and years were making runs. So what do you want? What do you want long-term for your team? Is it worth sacrificing a year, maybe 2, to have that longer term? For me, that makes tons of sense. In the short term, yeah, you're probably going to lose a little bit of money, and Murray Edwards doesn't like that. We all know he loves to work year to year in his business doings, and I get it. But if you want success and you want long-term sustainability, why aren't you going down this path? It just makes sense to, hey, we need to reload at some point. Every team does. Detroit made the playoffs for 25 straight years, and they've had to reload to try to do it again. It happens to every franchise. So to get that success, you've got to reload. How do you get the people to help you get to be successful? Well, you pick in the top 10 of the draft, and I think that's what the Flames are right now, and I think it would behoove the Flames this season to go down that path, which brings up the question, Robert, how many of these veterans should the Flames be moving out?
I mean, a lot. Like, when you take a look at like when this team is actually ready to contend, like truly contend, say that's 3 or 4 years from now, where are all these veteran guys going to be at this point in their career? Like Nazem Kadri will be 39 years old, 38, 39 years old. You know, Blake Coleman, Michael Backlund's contracts will have expired at that point. Mackenzie Weegar will be in his mid 30s. Huberdeau will be in his mid 30s. Like that, this quote unquote leadership group that you have, by the time you're actually ready to contend, they won't be really part of that. They won't be like a big part of that team. So, you know, with knowing that, it's like, well, bite the bullet now and move the guys out while they still have value, like a Nazem Kadri. Kadri's coming off a career year, having 35 goals at 35 years old. That's the time to move him. And, you know, with the Flames starting the way they have and putting themselves behind the 8 ball, you hope and pray that puts Craig Conroy in a position where he feels comfortable to trade these guys. Like he should have traded like a lot of these guys earlier than he has. It's kind of ridiculous that they've held on to this group of players as long as they have, because it's now been 3 consecutive seasons of no playoffs and no success. So yeah, I'm looking at Kadri for sure, because there's so many teams out there looking for a second line center. I'm looking at Blake Coleman, Joel Hanley, Rasmus Anderson. Like I think you start there at a minimum. And then if people come calling for a Frost or a Farabee or a Sharangovich, which is probably not.
No one's calling for Sharangovich.
Yeah, who am I kidding? Why did I even throw him in that mix? By the way, Kevin Bieksa roasting him on Hockey Night in Canada was fantastic, because nobody else in the media here in Calgary would even do that with a 10-foot pole. So
yeah,
touch that with a 10-foot pole. So I was happy to see that. But yeah, it's time to start moving out veterans. It's time to officially rebuild, even though they should have officially been doing that like 2 years ago. Yes, now this is the season to do this. Stop holding on to these players, because the longer you hold on to them, the lower their trade value is going to get. Like look at the way Rasmus Anderson has started this season. It's another bad start to the year for him. Like this dates back to the beginning of November. Like this is almost like 82 games of poor play from Rasmus Anderson. His trade value is only going to go down. Like if you're a pro scout watching this guy, do you even want to spend what it's going to take to get him anymore? Like
I wouldn't.
So yeah, it's time to rebuild. It should have been happening 2 years ago, but you know, hopefully this kind of forces Conroy's hand, because it feels like Conroy has to be forced into making obvious decisions, which is a little frustrating. Like he should have the foresight to understand that this group is just not good enough.
Absolutely. I think it goes beyond trading. Like we could talk about trading Kadri all day long and Blake Coleman. I think those are the obvious ones, right? Those are the obvious moves to make. I think the Flames also need to start making some tougher decisions with the waivers. And I am going to get so much flack for this on social media, but I don't care. Your guys, your lovable guys on the fourth line, your Klapkas, your Lombergs, your Kirklands, they should be put on waivers just so you can put a guy or two down to the American Hockey League. Bring up some of these guys, Rory Cairns, bring back Ridden, and start going down that road as well. So you're trading your veterans, you're bringing in your players from your organizations. As fun as Lomberg is, I don't think he added anything to that game on Saturday. Not that very many Flames did, but I don't think that he did anything. Like he had a fight in the first period, but why? Like. So you have these guys on your fourth line or third line that aren't really doing much and producing a ton of things. So I think it goes beyond just trading some veterans. I think it's time to allow a bit of a shift in your bottom part of your roster as well. Why is Miromanov and Jake Bean both on this roster? Why aren't you trying to find out what Kuznetsov is at this point of his career and what you have here? He's getting up there. You know, his age is going to be 26 before we know it. So he needs to play. You need to figure out what he has, and you've already had to put him through waivers once. You got to try to figure out as well what you have, as well as trying to move this team forward. And if you're going to be, let's say they're 2-7 at the end of this week, you're clearly not a good hockey team. You're 9 games in. You've won 2, one of them by sheer luck in Edmonton because Bouchard is a pylon. So you're not getting the luck. You're not getting the wins. You're not putting these together. Why not start going down that path and allowing yourself to use this entire season as a good evaluation tool And maybe Matt Tagerton is a 40-goal scorer in this league down the road, but you're never going to know unless you play this guy every day. What is Rory Cairns? Can he be a third-line center on this team down the road? So on and so forth. So I think the opportunity for the Flames in front of them here is almost a fork in the road. Do you just want to be that mediocre, mushy middle team? Then by all means, put the veterans back out there and let's plug away with a third pairing of Jake Bean and Danilo Miromanov and let's go to town here. Or do you want to actually build something and progress this roster towards more being competitive down the road? And I think that's the decision they have to make here. And I really hope that Craig Conroy can make that decision, and he's allowed to make that decision and goes about and does the right thing here for this organization. Because I don't know how many more people would enjoy mushy middle. Even if you are pro playoffs, do you really enjoy every year 10th place, 8th place, 9th place every year? It's a bit much for me.
Yeah, and like you just said, what do you think your fans want to see? Like, why don't you think about them for a second, which it feels like this team doesn't do, like from a front office perspective. 100%. Do you think this fan base in this city, they want to continue to see these older veteran guys that are doing, not what they're supposed to be doing on a nightly basis? You keep rolling out Coleman and you keep rolling out Farabee and Sharon Govich and all these guys. What fans want to see is the future. They want to see the young players. They want to see Rory Cairns. They want to see Matvei Gridin. They want to see Hunter Brstevich. You want to see William Stromgren get an opportunity. Give Sam Morton an opportunity at fourth line center. That's what the true hockey fans in this city want to see. They don't want to see this group this mediocre hockey team or, worse than mediocre hockey team go out there on a nightly basis and don't put in, an exciting effort. And the fans know that these guys aren't going to be a part of the future. So let's give the fans what they want, but, that's not how this works. That's not how the front office is going to approach it. It's not how the coaching staff's going to approach it, but that's what the fans want. They want to see these guys. They're tired of seeing these mediocre NHL guys that aren't going to be around here long term get opportunities over guys that have a potential to be here for a long time. It's very frustrating from that regard.
And it's not us pandering to Team Tank either, right? There are guys out there that want to see playoffs, but at the same time, they know you're not going to see the playoffs with Joel Farabee having one goal and Sharon Govich looking like he's a ECHL or hockey player. They know what's coming down the pipeline. They don't want murky middle. So this isn't, saying, hey, Team Tank, you're the best. We're on your side. This is more saying, hey, Flames, we need to put together an actual competitive roster. And right now you have the makings of the end of the Brad Treliving era when he tried to recoup and save face after the Kachuk and Gaudreau situations. And you have the beginning of the Craig Conroy where he's drafted well. So you're trying to put those two together. I don't think it works. I think you got to wash yourself of one era and allow Craig Conroy's era to come in fully here. And it's all due respect to these players too. Like, I enjoy watching Mackenzie Weegar play. I think Huberdeau's been pretty good the last year and a half for what he is now as a hockey player. Kadri can show flashes. So we're not saying these veterans suck and we hate them. Just right now for this team and where they're trying to go, I think it's time that you move on here and you allow what you're starting to build actually come to fruition here. And you're going to need a veteran or two down the road, absolutely. But you've got Frost and hopefully Azari, Matt Coronado that can mature into those roles in 2 or 3 seasons from now and be those guys that help the younger kids come along. So you have guys here. But the thing is, you're stopping the progression of this roster by not moving on from a couple of other guys here and allowing these kids to get their opportunity because you never know, right? You never, ever know what you have until you play them at the NHL level.
Yeah, like who would you rather see in the lineup right now? Yegor Sharon Govich or Rory Cairns? Like, obviously Rory Cairns. Who would you rather see, Joel Farabee or Cairns? Like, or Gridden? Like, it's not even close, right?
Yeah.
At some point, I really do believe that because of the difficult start to this season, like by the end of the month, I do think this team will be completely out of it. And at that point, you'd hope that Craig Conroy would have the vision to call up some of these guys and give them an opportunity this season because it will be a lost season. Like this totally feels like the 23-24 season to me. Like, remember that start to the year? Remember that October?
Yes, I do.
Probably the worst October I can remember in this team's history, and that's saying something. I'm getting similar vibes to that. Like, I think they started that year. think they were like 2-8-1 in their first 11 games of the season, and I'm getting the same sort of vibes. And that year things were not clicking. They were not playing good hockey. I'm feeling kind of the same way about this year. And ultimately, what ended up happening that season was they actually ended up figuring it out starting in November when they called up Zary and Pospisil, and they actually turned into a half decent team. Like, I think from November to April, they were like 16th in the NHL in points or in winning percentage. I hope that doesn't really happen this year.
Well, you mean you got somewhat good and competitive when you played your kids?
That's spot on. And you know what? That's actually an interesting point. If they end up recalling Gridden and all those guys that I had mentioned, does this team actually take a step forward because there's more skill in the lineup and there's more speed in the lineup? Like,
let's think about it this
way. An
way.
Interesting conversation.
I think about it this way, Robert. You got your veterans who know they're pretty much out of it. They're just, some of them, not all of them, are going to take a step back and just go through the motions, right? You get these kids up here, and we see this all the time in the National Hockey League after the trade deadline. They call up a couple of kids, and all of a sudden, San Jose goes on a 5-game heater, or the Blackhawks get 6 of 7 wins. These kids come up here, and they're full of piss and vinegar, and try hard, and they want to make an impression, and you see an uptick in play because these kids are putting their best on the ice versus these veterans who are just going through the motions. So to your point, like, that season turned around that year because you brought up 2 kids who fit in nicely by Kadri, got Kadri back into the mix, showed their skill off, showed their speed off, showed their ability off, and the Flames team turned around. So the case can be made that bring back Gridden, bring up Cairns. Maybe they help spark this roster a little bit. It can't get worse, can it?
No. No, it can't. This is about as bad as it gets.
The Flames have 1 win on the year and sit behind San Jose Sharks, who have 0 points on the year because of tiebreakers. This early in the season, you were 32 out of 32, and a team with 0 wins is ahead of you in the standings. That's how things are going for the Flames right now. It's not a pretty picture, but listeners, we're not always negative all the time. Robert and I dug deep, really deep, and we found a couple of positives each that we want to talk about on the podcast today, Robert. So we kind of talked about your first one already, about how this losing might force the Flames to change the directions a little bit and trade the veterans. I'll let you go on that point if you want a little bit more. Or let's go to your second point, which is a player that stood out to you this season here.
Yeah, and it's funny. My first positive is kind of a negative because it's we're basically talking about them losing a whole bunch of hockey, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, we thought it'd be good just to talk about a couple positive things. So yeah, my first one was just the idea that losing will help force Craig Conroy to make deals that he probably already should have made and start to turn over the roster even more. Like I said, it's kind of weird that Conroy there's from a fan's perspective, it feels like there's a lot of decisions that he can make that are so obvious. And that's like trading Erasmus Anderson instead of extending him. But you hear reports that the Flames, they're not closing the door to extending Erasmus Anderson. It's an obvious decision to trade him. And Conroy always has to be forced into making those moves rather than being proactive and making those moves himself. He basically has his team make decisions for him, and I don't like that. So because of that trend, because Craig Conroy allows that to happen, the fact that the Flames are in last place and they're playing bad hockey, it will force Conroy to make tough decisions and moving out veteran players. And I do think that's a good thing for the long-term future of this team. So that's kind of my first one. And then the second one is just the growth and the slow evolution of Zayne Parekh's game so far. I really believe that he is continuing with each game that he plays. He continues to get better and better and better and better. I thought he struggled against Vegas in Calgary. I think it was Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think he had a very good game, but you look at him in Utah, probably their most dynamic player against Utah. And then in Vegas on Saturday, he was the one guy that was actually going and actually creating chances. I've liked the progression from him. It looks like he's getting a lot more comfortable with the defensive side of things. You're not seeing those chaotic shifts where the opposition has a 30 to 50-second shift in the Flames end and they just can't seem to get the puck out. We're not really seeing that the last few games here from Zayne Parekh. Mm-hmm. And then on the offensive side of things, I think he's been really good on that second power play unit in the limited amount of time that he gets. for Ryan Huska not to use him on the first power play unit is honestly ridiculous. It's insane that Zayne Parekh is not running that first power play unit. He'd be such an upgrade on Mackenzie Weegar in that spot. Like, it's his skill set. Like, he's the most skilled player on the team. He's the most talented player on the team. Why is he not on the first power play unit? That just feels like Ryan Huska pandering to a veteran. So hopefully we'll see Parekh on the first power play unit shortly. And then, in Vegas, he ended up playing with Kevin Ball. Like, could we see some different D pairings? Like, we'll find out this morning at morning skate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just I've liked the fact that Parekh seems to be getting better as each game progresses, and I only think it's a matter of time before he breaks out and starts putting up a bunch of points. Because the last couple games, everybody around him has been listless, lifeless. He's been the one guy that's actually been creating, and it's very exciting. So I'm excited to see how he continues to progress here.
And I'll add to that by saying he's done it with 4 different D partners.
Yeah,
right.
Good point. Really.
So
good point.
You have this 19-year-old kid in the lineup that you're hoping to progress along. You'd think, okay, let's put a nice veteran with them and let them work together, let them work through things. Nope. Hey, Parekh, here's Hanley for a game. Then we give you Paul for a game. How about Jake Bean against one of the best teams in the league? How about that be your D partner, right? I think it's high time that they do change the D pairings around. Put him with Kevin Ball or Joe Hanley or whoever you pick to be with him as a veteran beside him, and just let those two play together. Allow Parekh to get comfortable. Allow Parekh to continue his progression. A defenseman beside him that can help him learn the defense side of the game and bring that side of his game along here. Give Parekh the minutes on your top power play unit, like you've mentioned, Robert. I'm fully on board with that as well. And what he's shown you over these games that he's played, these 4 games that he's played, is he's not over his skis. You're going to see the rookie shift every once in a while. It happens. We saw that when Vegas was in Calgary. It happens. But what we're seeing from Parekh is the next shift after that is a rebound shift. And you're seeing him back to what he's supposed to be doing, learning from his mistakes. So I think as that progression continues, I think a D partner that's steady beside him would help him out a lot and allow this guy to continue to progress, because he's been absolutely one of the big positives of the Flames this season. Stop putting him with Jake Bean, please. Let's go to my positives on the season as well, Robert. I really thought that the Flames had the biggest question coming into the season, and people were falling over themselves to have all these hot takes on social media about the backup goaltender and how we're not good enough back there and we don't have enough guys. And I will grant those same people, it's been a small sample size. In playing just less than 80 minutes this season, Devin Cooley has a 2.29 goals against average and a save percentage of .925. I think it's safe to say that the Flames' backup goaltender conversation is on pause for right now. I think he's been good for the Flames. I think he gave him a chance to win in his start. I think that he was one of the better players against Vegas in that third period on Saturday when he came into the game. I think that Devin Cooley has been a good story for the Flames. He had a rough preseason, but he's come into these game situations. He's calmed down his body language. He's been cool and collective in the net and given the Flames an opportunity to be competitive in the game that he started. So I think the Flames backup goaltending situation is on pause, and I think that's going to help Dustin Wolf as well, knowing that it's the same guy back behind him and that he can rely on Devin Cooley to help him out, and that might help Dustin Wolf get his game back on track a little bit more. I know we talked about earlier in the podcast about some of the struggles around him, but I think it's going to help the goaltending room calm itself down. If there's not all these questions around your goaltenders, just allow both those guys to go to work. I think your team is better for it. So I think Devin Cooley is a good story for the beginning of the season for the Flames. And my other one is Mr. I've only played one game, but probably was the best forward for the Flames, and that's Jonathan Huberdeau. In his return on Saturday, it wasn't a pretty game, but he scored the only Flames goal. He was back on the power play, and I thought that he looked good. I thought he was easily the best leader on that team on Saturday. He had his boots underneath him. It didn't look like he missed a ton of time, and I thought he was engaged offensively as well for this team. It was a tough goal for the whole team on Saturday, of course, so you got to take that into consideration. But I thought the return of Jonathan Huberdeau should have been a bigger spark than it was, but I thought he looked good, Robert.
Yeah, he did, especially in that first period. Like he looked dynamic. I mean, Obviously he made a bunch of nice plays on the power play. He scored on the power play. He made a ridiculous pass to find Joel Farabee going hard to the net. Like it's a puck that Farabee should have put into the back of the net. And yeah, it was set up by Huberdeau. Like a lot of people online were joking around, and like I remember I posted just like an article on Flames Nation saying that Huberdeau was going to return to the lineup, and there were a lot of sarcastic responses saying like this is the guy that's going to turn around the season. And I get it, like he's got the contract, like I understand, but at the same time, adding a 50 to 65 point player to a lineup that can't score is obviously going to help, and he did help in that first period. I mean, he scored the goal. He made a few nice plays to set up his teammates for goals that should have gone in. So good on him. And the Devin Cooley one, I think, is an awesome story so far this year. I know it's only been 4 periods that he's played, but they've been 4 excellent periods, and everybody in the hockey world was doubting him. So for him to early on shove it up everybody's hoop, I think is a great story for Devin Cooley. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, like that game in Utah that he played, like it was only a 3-1 game with an empty netter goal, right? So like he held that team in it. He gave them every opportunity. If that team could have mustered anything other than 1 goal, I think that that game might have gone a little bit different because of
that should have been a 5-6-1 win for
absolutely
Utah, easily.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So trying to find positives in the season hasn't been easy, but we found some. So hopefully that helps out those who are looking for some positives for this Flames team. But it also brings up the conversation when you're a team that's struggling, you're going through a lot of roster moves. Excuse me. You're questioning some lineup decisions and the tenure. It comes to the Ryan Huska conversation. I've already seen it on social media, how the Flames made a mistake in signing Ryan Huska to the extension. Why haven't they fired this guy? And every conversation under the sun with Ryan Huska. So I figure, and Robert figured we should talk about Ryan Huska on the podcast here. Did the Flames rush, in your opinion, to get Ryan Huska this contract extension? Because for me, it was more of this is just the business of coaching. He was going to be a lame duck. You give him another couple of years, so it's not a lame duck year. You give him a little security, and you've liked what he did for you last season. So why after 6 games then are you not going to like what he's done for you? So where are you at with the Ryan Huska extension, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, like him signing an extension doesn't really matter. We saw the Calgary Flames. They're willing to make tough decisions when it comes to their coaches. We saw with Daryl Sutter. Mm-hmm. Daryl Sutter signs a 2-year extension. The Flames fired him before that extension even came into existence. So, if the Flames feel like Huska is not the guy, I don't think him signing an extension will have anything to do with their decision on to fire him or not to fire him. So you can throw that argument out the window, in my opinion. But like when it comes to Huska, for what we can judge him on as fans is what kind of person he is, what kind of leader he is, and is this the person you want to take your franchise forward? We as fans, we don't know the ins and outs of his system. Like I see people online, they always say Huska needs to change his system. Huska needs to change his system. So much. And they never give specific examples of what they want to see that's different.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because the game of hockey from a systems perspective, like for the average fan, that includes myself, like I don't know the ins and outs of hockey systems of neutral zone play and forechecks and defensive zone coverage. Like I'm not an expert in that field. So and a lot of people aren't either. So for people to say the system's got to change, well, I think that's a little unfair because I don't think you even know what the system is, and like I don't know what the system is. So that's number one. But from like an actual like leadership standpoint, I think Huska's a really good coach. Like I really like his demeanor. I like the way he treats his players. I like the way he communicates with his players. I like the way he communicates with the media, and which ultimately leads to communication to the fan base. I like all that stuff. I think he comes across as like a very smart, well thought out guy. He's not someone who's gonna make irrational, emotional decisions, which I think is important in such an emotional sport. Mm-hmm. So like the person Ryan Huska, I think is great. I think the leader Ryan Huska is great, and he's the kind of person I think you want leading the Calgary Flames into the next couple years of their rebuild here. The frustrating thing from my perspective with Huska is just I feel like he gets very stubborn with his lineup decisions. He's not willing to allow young players to go out and play a bunch of minutes and make mistakes. Feels like he's very protective and he likes to shelter those players. And that can be frustrating because, like for example, I'm seeing Rasmus Andersson. He's having a terrible start to the year. Like he has not been good. I'm seeing Mackenzie Weegar's having a really bad start to the year. Yet, and then I see Zayne Parekh, who continues to get better and better, yet he is still sheltered. The only time Parekh is getting a lot of minutes is when the Flames are down by a lot of goals. So it's like he continues to trust veterans who aren't getting the job done and doesn't trust young players who could probably do the job just as good or if not better than some of these guys right now. And that can be a little frustrating. Like it's just like some of those lineup decisions. The fact that he continues to go back to Jake Bean and Daniil Miramanov does not make sense to me. The fact he continues to put Ryan Lomberg in the lineup every single game does not make sense to me. So in terms of lineup decisions, yes, I think there's definitely room for improvement there, but I like the person. I like the leader. Systems, once again, I don't really know what changes they should make to their system. People say that they need to be a lot more creative offensively and unleash these guys, but it's like, do they even have the talent to really do that?
What guys?
If he unleashes them and they end up giving up even more chances in their own end, could these games get even uglier? It's a serious question. So I am not on the Fire Huska bandwagon. I am definitely not with those people online. I think he's a good leader, a good man, and I think he's someone that could take this team, over the next couple years here, at least into the new building. The only thing I just want to see change is just some small tweaks in the lineup. It's really not that big of changes, and I do think that would help him moving forward. But
whenever you go and you try to, judge how a coach is performing, I always like to take a look at the roster that coach has had. Like, this is a flawed roster. We talked like the last 50 minutes of this podcast. We talked about this roster, how flawed it is, and how there should be changes and this and that. So we're judging Ryan Huska based on a flawed roster to begin with. So I think questioning his playing style or his system, I think I laugh it off almost, because it's just like, at the same time, like, what do you want him to do? You just mentioned it there, Robert. If they don't have this defensive structure, this team falls apart. Vegas ripped them to shreds just because they found a way through the defensive structure. What if they unleashed that roster on Vegas? How many holes then does Vegas have to skate through? So I think when it comes to systems and the way a team plays, those people aren't looking at the full picture, in my opinion. And not to disrespect anyone in their opinion how they want to be a hockey fan. I just don't see it the same way. I think Ryan Huska's approach to a game is good. He has a good hockey mind. I can listen to him talk about hockey for a long time. He's very knowledgeable. He knows what he needs to get done. He knows how the team needs to play. He knows what players can bring to him. He spends a lot of time getting to know his players, so he knows how these guys are. I am with you, though, Robert. He does need to loosen up the strings a little bit when it comes to the roster lineup. Unless a rookie is absolutely undeniable for an entire game or an entire practice, he tends to shelter them a lot. And that can change a little bit. I understand the mindset of why he's trying to protect the rookies. It is a tough league, but at the same time, let them play. Let them figure it out. Let them make the mistakes, because what you've seen, what they're capable of. And stop just relying just on your veterans. Like, how many times are we just seeing, the same guys being put out there in situations? Maybe loosen that up a little bit. So I'm with you pretty much wholeheartedly and 100% on your take of Ryan Huska here. I think he's a good coach. I think he does the best of what he's given. And for those people that are saying fire Ryan Huska, who are you bringing in that's going to be better and get this team to a different level? And at the same time, we say that, is starting over with another coach at this point really what you want to do again?
What's that going to do?
We're back to then you fire Huska this year, bring another coach. You're back to a new coach every other season, going back for like 24 years or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you're resetting again with the coach? This also is a reminder. This coach spent some time in the American Hockey League with some of these guys. This coach was an assistant with a lot of other of these guys before he was the head coach, so he knows these guys quite well. You have a new coach come in here. You're starting from scratch again, getting to know all the players, trying to, quote-unquote, fit their system. all over again. And does it really make this team better if it's the coach? And we're 6 games into his season. You're really going to throw the coach under the bus after 6 games? A bit premature, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is a bit premature, but the one thing that I I think will be interesting to watch this season in particular is, how does he handle this poor start to the year? How is he going to handle dealing with that veteran leadership core? Say the Flames lose, say 3 of their next 4, that essentially takes them officially out of the playoff race. Just because of all the reasons that we stated in this episode. How does Nazem Kadri feel about that? How does Mackenzie Weegar feel about that? How does Rasmus Anderson feel about that? How does Blake Coleman feel about that? All of a sudden, this veteran core group of players who were very dedicated to this organization the last couple seasons, and good on them for that, all of a sudden, they're going to start saying to themselves, I'm 30-something years old. Like, I don't have many years left in my prime here. What am I doing here?
Mm-hmm.
And I could honestly see there being, some discourse in that locker room and a little bit of drama in that locker room because of that. Like, Mackenzie Weegar, all he talks about is how badly he wants to play in the playoffs. Like, he's seeing all of his friends in Florida go to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals and win 2 of them. And he's seeing that. He's like, God, like, I want that. And if the Flames, if they're out of it come November 1st, he's going to be pissed. So, like, how is Ryan Huska going to manage those personalities and manage that kind of drama with those types of players? I think is going to be really interesting to watch, because there might come a point this season where Nazem Kadri is like, I've had enough. Like, I'm done. Like, get me out of here. Mackenzie Weegar, he's been very dedicated to the city of Calgary, and I respect the hell out of him for it. There might come a point here where he's like, I don't think I can make the playoffs here within the next 3 or 4 years, and I'm 31, 32 years old. I want to go make the playoffs somewhere. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how he handles that whole thing, because I could see there being some drama this season with some of the veteran players. And that's not like saying that these veteran players are bad guys. They're just saying, like,
that's human nature.
I want to win.
Yeah.
I'm getting up there in age. I want to win hockey games. I want to make the playoffs. Like, one thing I kind of thought about when watching that Vegas game, like, we're talking about the body language of these guys and all that kind of stuff. I'm almost wondering, like, during that game, like, guys like Weegar and Kadri, were they, like, embarrassed to be on the ice in that situation? Like they see this Vegas Golden Knights team where everybody wants to go play there. They're playing in an awesome city. There's no state tax. The team wins. They're playing in a brand new, amazing building. I know we're getting a new building soon, but, do they almost get a little jealous? And do they see that and just go like, like, God damn it, I want that in my life right now? Like, I could see something like that happening. And how Huska and Conroy handles that, it's going to be interesting to see, because that's going to be a big challenge for them. Like, dealing with NHL players is not easy. I think there's a lot of ego involved, and they're rich. They're rich young professionals. Like, I think that's going to be one of the more interesting storylines to follow this season.
And you're going to be fighting human nature. Like, it's human nature to want, right? As well.
Totally.
Ryan Huska cannot have a normal season, can he?
No, he can't.
This is his 3rd season in charge, and he's gone through that whole debacle 2 years ago of all those players. Last year's up and downness, and then off to this horrendous start this year. So overall, I think you have to like the job Ryan Huska's done based on everything he's gone through. And here's another challenge in front of him here with this slow start. Robert, let's take a quick look ahead to this week and what Ryan Huska and the Flames have in front of them, because before we talk next week, it's home against the Jets, home against a very good, hardworking Montreal Canadiens team. You're in Winnipeg, and then you're home to face the Rangers, all before we talk next week. That's 4 games. That's 8 points. How do you see this week working out for the Flames, especially tonight versus Winnipeg?
Not great, John. Not great. You're playing the President's Trophy winners twice. Not easy to do. You're playing a Montreal team who stylistically, I think, matches up against the Flames very well from a Montreal perspective, because they're so fast and they're so skilled and they're so offensive. I don't know if the Flames can keep up with them.
They're so good. That Montreal team is underrated, in my opinion. That's
they're fun to watch.
Team. Yeah, Nick Suzuki is one of the best captains in the league that's never talked about. That's a good roster.
Yeah, like Nick Suzuki, he leads the NHL in points since the Four Nations face-off.
It's insane. He's so good.
Like, that's how good this guy is. Like, and yeah, nobody talks about him. Like this, and like I've watched a lot of Montreal Canadiens games this year. They're so much fun. They're so entertaining. Like Hudson is remarkable to watch, and Demidov is remarkable to watch, and Coffey. Like, just you just go on and on and on with that team.
And Montembeault in goal, like, people aren't giving him enough credit. He's not going to be your Vezina finalist type of goaltender, but that guy is going to give you. I'm going to allow my 2 goals probably, but I'm going to give you every opportunity to win this hockey game.
Absolutely.
He's a very steady goaltender back there for that roster as well.
Yeah, and like I think he started over 60 games last year, or he was like in the high 50s. Like, he plays a lot of minutes, and he's very solid. Like, so yeah, they're in trouble.
They got him off of waivers too, by the way.
Did they really?
Yeah, from Florida.
Jeez.
Yep.
Hell of a pickup.
Yep.
Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon are doing a remarkable job with that team. And
so that'll be an 8-0 loss for the Flames. We were building that roster up.
The one game I could see them winning is against New York, because the Rangers they're very hit and miss. You don't know what the heck you're going to get from them.
And the Flames like to batter Shesterkin. It was last year, 2 years ago, they won both those games like 6-1. And Shesterkin was absolutely awful. So that is a winnable game for them, especially if Shesterkin starts, because they send for some reason they have his number.
Yeah, Matt Coronado lit him up last year. So yeah, no, that's a potential win. But yeah, man, they're in tough this week, and it just feels like this hole is just going to continue to get deeper and deeper, which I don't think is a bad thing. But if you're hoping that the Flames are going to be a playoff team this year, this is not the schedule you want to see this week.
Yeah, they're going to get a very motivated Winnipeg club as well. I think Winnipeg feels they've been disrespected in a lot of preseason predictions. A lot of people are really drooling over Colorado. I was, Dallas, like you were, and picking all these teams to finish ahead of them. This was a team that won a lot of hardware last year. They have the best goalie in the league, if you go statistic-wise. Won a couple of trophies himself last year. This is a very motivated team, and they got a cool story in Jonathan Taves. To see this roster twice this week, that's a daunting task ahead of this team, because Winnipeg will work and blow you out of the building. They can play it a couple different ways, how you ever want to play. Scheifele's broken some all-time records in that organization early this season. They don't miss Ehlers at all because they found other guys to fill those holes. And that defensive group, just all 6 of those guys that play regularly, they're just steady. They're good. And this league does not talk about Josh Morrissey enough and the job that he does for that team. So to watch that team roster twice this week will be fun, because I like watching fun hockey. But as a Flames fan, you just kind of grit your teeth and hope they can maybe scrape out a win of one of those 2 games that they play against Winnipeg, because that's a tall task for the Flames.
Yeah, we're in one.
We're definitely in one.
We're in one for sure.
All right, Robert. We've talked about a lot on this episode. We have a lot of games coming up this week before we speak next. Anything else you want to bring up on the podcast? If not, what's coming up from you on the old flamesnation.ca?
Oh man, that's actually a great question. Like last week I wrote my 5 observations through the first 5 games, which was a fun article to write, but it's a kind of a hard team to write about right now, just because a lot of the storylines are so negative. So, you want to try to not, dive into that too much. But
yeah.
Once again, I'm sure I'll come up with a couple of different ideas. If there's anything you do want me to write about, hit me up on Twitter. But I'll be going to the game tonight, so I'm excited to be in the Dome for that one. And then I'll be on Afterburner on Wednesdays after Wednesday's game, so I'm excited for that as well. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun week here.
That is Robert Munich. He is Ring of Fire CGY on social media. I'm Vintage Johnny 84, and of course the show is Red Mile Rundown wherever you do your social media posting. Appreciate you sticking with us through this episode. Hopefully we found some positives for you. Look forward to the hockey, despite how we've talked about the team this week. I do look forward to the hockey games. It's always fun to have Flames hockey. Hopefully you can see some kids sooner than later. We'll talk to you guys next week here on the show. Enjoy the games and go Flames.